it for any occasion. So keep patting down, waiting, comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers. And now, here are Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
It's like half of the things we say right before we record can never be repeated.
Yes. Maybe more than half.
So many things we say during the day at the store are just vile and inappropriate.
They're not good for our brand.
No.
Leave it at that.
There's no justifying it either.
No.
It's just, you know...
I'm a terrible human being.
It's just two people just blowing off a little bit of steam. Hoping to make a go of it in this fast-paced world of comic book retail.
Yep.
Trying to expose the good people of Chicago and beyond all the benefits of the great comics being made today.
Yep.
And especially the great comics, and I'll be honest, I had no idea where I was going, but I just gave myself a segue.
Yep. Talk long enough sometimes.
The great comics of next week.
Next week.
See, here's the thing about the comics industry that kind of is annoying. Now, obviously, different publishers are not necessarily privy to everybody else's publishing schedule.
Okay.
That lends itself to having some big releases from different publishers come out on the same weeks, and then no releases come out from publishers on other weeks.
Yep.
There's this weird, roller coaster up and down of...
Feast or famine.
Yeah.
That's what they call it.
And even within a publishing industry itself, par exemple, next week from Image, we have a little book you may have heard us talk about before, Little Bird #1, and Assassination #1. 2 books I'm really behind, 2 books I enjoyed immensely, both coming out the same day.
From the same publisher.
From the same publisher.
I don't think Image should ever have 2 #1s in the same week.
Can you tell me what Image #1s came out today?
None of them?
Right. So why not schedule this a little bit differently? Even it out. And I know the following week we already have Invisible Kingdom from Dark Horse to look forward to. And it's great. It's great when we have things to look forward to that are coming out, but there's too many good things coming out next week that I'm afraid that things are going to get overlooked, like The Return of the Goon.
That's true.
The brand new Goon series, Goon #1 from, I forget his...
Albatross.
Thank you, Albatross Funny Books is coming out.
Transformers #1 from IDW, start of a brand new continuity for that brand.
That IDW is really pushing hard.
They really are.
And they've hired numerous... I don't know the word.
Independent contractors.
To help them spread their brand within the retail community.
Yep.
We've gotten phone calls from representatives for IDW's Transformers. There have been posts on the internet from IDW Transformer representatives. They're doing a lot of promotion, but also incentives for retailers to buy in a little bit heavier. And as of yet, I can't tell you why this series deserves that and the previous series didn't.
Do you actually want an answer to that?
Yes.
After the Unicron event, IDW is completely rebooting its Transformers continuity. This is the equivalent of like a post-crisis event. So they have a complete blank slate to work with where they're able to give people who have never read a Transformers comic the starting point, the jumping on point, in a way that I was a fan of the previous continuity, but it was dense. Lost Light #1 and Optimus Prime #1 that had come out 2 years earlier were like the third phase of each of those series. So if you jumped on with those, you could maybe start, but there's a ton of things in both those books that you would have no idea what they were talking about because you didn't read the previous 50 chapters of those stories, let alone the entire phase 1 of IDW's Transformers continuity that preceded those 50 chapters. So this takes all of that and kind of puts it in a little parentheses and says, okay, that's it, it's done. Now you've got the new Transformers continuity, and you can start with issue 1 of this. You won't have missed anything. It's all there for the new reader. They're taking a lot of liberties and changing a lot of things around. So instead of just being like an ultimate continuity where it's just streamlining stuff that we've seen before, it's actually changing a lot of core concepts in favor of something that can work in 2019 and doesn't have to feel as indebted to what a cartoon did in the 1980s.
As a longtime fan, are you going to have difficulty
Not
separating...
even a long-time fan, really, but 7 years or so.
As a mid-range fan, are you going to have any difficulty separating the voices that these characters have in your heads or reconciling them with their new personalities?
Yeah, I'm already having that problem. There were a few preview pages published on Newsarama, and there's a Optimus Megatron scene, and it's like, I have to keep reminding myself, this is different now.
Yeah.
It is different. It
Right.
is. They're not doing it wrong. They're doing it different, and I got to get on board with the different. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be a little bit of a constant reminder to myself to not think about it in terms of how James Roberts would have written the Megatron character for all these issues, or how John Barber would have written the Optimus Prime character for all these issues. This is a new writer, a new direction. All of it's new. Just treat it for what it is.
So this is the new 52 for Transformers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you think in 5 years there'll be Rebirth where they put all that old continuity back in?
There was a tiny thing that James Roberts did in his final issue of 70-something issues of Transformers comics where they could very, very easily revisit that continuity for his characters if he felt like telling other stories there.
Okay.
Absolutely. And even the previous continuity, it's not like it gets obliterated. It still exists. There is an ending to the Unicron story, and a lot of characters survive. So if they ever wanted to do something that revisited that, that would be very easy to do as well. IDW has, for both Transformers and G.I. Joe, done comic series that revisit the Marvel runs of both those books and just continue on as if they had never ended. They did 12 issues of Transformers Regeneration 1, and they're still doing G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, with the original writer.
The same way that Marvel has even announced Star Wars number 107, which is the...
108.
108.
Yeah.
I thought that would... See, I thought it was 108, but then I thought you corrected someone today in
I
the
did,
store.
because they said 109.
Oh,
It's
okay. I thought
108.
they said 108.
No,
Okay.
108. Yeah, which I think is neat. They've done that with some of the legacy stuff. Marvel did that where they would do, like, Power Pack number 63.
Yeah.
Except they kind of didn't.
Right. It wasn't an immediate
Yeah,
continuation.
it wasn't the
just
next chapter. It was just
issue.
another comic book by a completely different creative team where it's like, all right, better than nothing, but not really what you're promising.
So, going back to Transformers, and I had a neat IDW segue too, but we'll stay with this right now. Going back to Transformers, do you think there is an audience to be found that has been wanting to start Transformers comics, but it's been too dense, like you said? Do you think this has the potential to reach new people?
2 months ago, I would have said no. Now I would say absolutely, because we've had a bunch of people sign up for it.
Have we?
That had not previously been down for it, that had not subscribed to it. But prior to, just as Unicron was ending, I think we had 1 or 2 people that were down for Transformers. And
Yes.
the one person who was getting the non-Unicron comics had said, at Unicron he was done. He didn't want to do any more,
Right.
even with a new storyline. We probably have 4 or 5 people down for Transformers now.
Okay.
If not more. People who are excited and not necessarily interested in 15 years of comic books, but if it's a number 1 and it's a new continuity and it's got Optimus Prime and Megatron on the front, they'll give it a shot, sure. Those characters and concepts are popular, largely, even if it's from people who don't or wouldn't think to read a Transformers comic. If they read comics and they like the brand, this may be the point where they decide that they want to give it a shot.
It's just coming out in a tough week because it would not be in like the top 5 things I recommend to people for the next week.
Yeah, we talked before about how difficult it can be, how many things you can hand sell as a person, and usually you're limited to 1 or 2 things in a week, 2 at the most. So when there's a week like this where there's like 4 different books that we could point at and go, oh, I'd recommend that to people, we're going to be down to putting them on the first issue thing and hoping we remember later to point out to people, hey, there's these other ones that came out.
Along with what we've previously mentioned, there's that spin-off of a spin-off, the Batman Who Laughs The Grim Knight,
Mm-hmm.
which is a spin-off of Batman Who Laughs, which is a spin-off of Dark Knight's Metal, which is...
This is the one who's a Batman who's a Punisher.
Yeah, right. That's just the easiest way to say it.
He's a Batman who's a Punisher.
That comes out. The wonderfully written and overlooked series She Could Fly from Dark Horse is being collected.
Yeah.
And it's right in time for its Volume 2 to start coming out in single issues. Highly recommended by most people at Challengers.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it had a lot of moves on it.
We had an interesting discussion today about what to classify it as
Yeah.
far as genre.
Yeah, Dark Horse had, or I don't know, Diamond or Dark Horse, one of the two of them had categorized it as drama, which I was initially going to correct to science fiction, but then I realized, well, I didn't really think it was much of a science fiction thing. Like, there's a science fiction element, but it's not a science fiction story. So I asked you what you thought, and you immediately said drama, so I thought, all right, drama.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes when there is a post-apocalyptic setting of a story, our first instinct is to say sci-fi fantasy.
Yep.
But if it's not about the setting, and if it's just like the human condition,
Yeah.
we can overrule the obvious. If it's two robots in the future who fall in love, most of the time we're going to put that as sci-fi.
Yeah, Alex and Ada, for example,
Yeah.
is a robot and a
Yeah.
person who fall in love, and it's like, that's enough of the world building is in there that I think science fiction.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I guess, the key to it. Like, She Could Fly, there's a little bit of someone's building a piece of technology that allows for someone to fly, but
It's not about that.
the world is very right now.
Yes.
And the people in it are just regular people who are caught up in some crazy thing. And it's a lot of it is about one character's journey and what she's going through and how she's overcoming things to be a better person. Like, that's kind of the core of the story and what makes it entertaining and relatable.
Spoiler alert, she can't fly.
No, she's not the she who can fly, at least not in the first one.
Thus far.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, she could fly. She can fly?
She could fly.
She could fly. Drama section.
Yeah.
New This Week section this week, but then drama
Next
section
week,
after
yeah.
that.
Yeah, or when you hear this, for
Yeah.
sure, yeah. This is a little weird for us. We're recording extra early in the week
Yeah, our weekend gets real busy.
because of commitments and things. Commitments including Lucy and Isley. But that'll already have happened by now.
Yeah, I hope it went well. I hope everybody had a good time.
Yeah, and I hope we don't have any books left. They're all gone.
Yep.
Except for like 3 for people who come in late.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy, as we mentioned before, is signing on International Women's Day. And we have her in our lineup of Women's Comics Month, in which different women identifying and non-binary creators will be signing every Saturday and Sunday of March. And as such, we have several people who are either new to the store or new to the event. We have a lot of repeats, which is fine. But 2 years ago, we interviewed a lot of people, and I realize I'm giving setup that I've already given. So rather than say that, I'm just going to say, to give you an idea of what we're trying to do with Women's Comics Month and why we're doing it, and to expose you to somebody that we find as an incredible breath of fresh air in the local Chicago comics illustration scene, here is Rachel Bard. Dow and I will be back in 17 minutes. So it's the start of Women's Comics Month at Challengers, and that means that we have different women and non-binary creators in on Saturdays and Sundays throughout the month, originally designed to spur the celebration of Women's History Month, but, define it toward comics. And the first time we did this, back in 2017, we spent a little time talking to everybody when they were here. And then we haven't done that in a while, but this year, one of the people that is with us who wasn't part of the first year, but has been here previously and does wonderful work and has worked with us on Bookmark as well, is Rachel Bard. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Thank you for, A, being part of Women's Comics Month, again, but also for finding us and exposing us to your work, because your work is so unique and innovative and creative, and it is a literal breath of fresh air in today's comic scene. Am I laying on too thick? Are we okay?
I actually originally heard, I don't know if I ever told you this, I originally found Challengers because my friend, do you know Sheikha?
Oh, yeah.
Had done Women's Comics Month the
first time around.
time around,
Yeah.
that was like earlier when I didn't like have that many stores. I didn't know like where are stores that I could sell these weird things.
I will tell you that for the first month that we did this, we tried to have a different creator in every day of the month. So we were trying to fill 31 spots. And it wound up being a bad idea because we would have some great people in on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And Tuesday is a dead business day in the comic store because Wednesdays are the new release day. So we'd have people in all day Tuesday, and, you know, we have nobody in the store.
Yeah.
So then we decided to put it on weekends. But once we reached out to the people that we knew, we had to start going to other people and saying, who else should we ask for this? And I don't even know how we found Sheikha in the first place, but Sheikha has done a lot of other events for us as well as Women's Comics Month. She signed for like Harley Quinn Day, did sketches, and upcoming she's going to be hosting a history of comics class here, and she does like art classes and stuff, so she's great as well. But yeah, I guess we know you because you came in one day and had these things, and we said, oh my god, these things are so great. Like, comics are adaptable, and they're for everybody, but your work just melts people's hearts because it's so adorable. Even when you have some pretty dark subject matter, it's still really cute. So if people don't know you, but they've been in the store, yours are the tiny little books that are all different shapes and sizes and different formats. And like one is a baby that's wearing a diaper, and you take the diaper off and it folds out, and the story is on the cutouts of the baby. Baby being, you know, just for descriptive purposes, not necessarily part of the story. You have one about bees that's in the shape of a honeycomb when it's opened up. You have a lot of clever different formats, so people are most likely aware of what your work is like. And you also did bookmark for us with a lot of fun little creatures on a bookshelf. So how long have you been doing this?
I started out doing comics. I went to the School of the Art Institute, and I had my first comics class in 2015 because I had been doing like really realistic painting, and I was sort of interested in illustration, interested in comics, and I just sort of hit a wall with painting where I didn't want to spend a bunch of time trying to get like 2% more like close to like what it actually looks like. Like it was just not.
You didn't want to get that much more realistic.
Yeah, it just like wasn't challenging to me, and I felt like, why am I like paying to be in school to do this? I want to do something that's like really difficult. So I was like, oh, I'll try to make comics. That seems incredibly hard and impossible to do. And then I was in Beth Hetland's class. I think she's done. Yeah.
She's done it. Yeah.
And
we've got some of her work here. She's exhibited before.
She would like bring in like examples, and it would just be a bunch of different like mini comics because she goes to like every event and has this huge collection, and she would bring all different like different formats of books and stuff into class. And then that was like my favorite part of all of it was I was like, what else can it be? Like, what are all these like different weird things that you wouldn't think of? Because what they teach you is like how to like fold like a regular book.
Your standard.
And I was like, okay.
Not a 7x10 comic format, or
like a one sheet like little comic.
Oh, sure.
Where, like, and I was like, that's fine, but that's not like it didn't like pique my interest in the way that like these like strange like things on fabric and like different like accordion books and stuff was like so interesting to me. And I was like, well, like I wanted to find more of them, but they're like aren't really like
that's true.
I wasn't finding the things that like I imagined would exist.
I mean, that at its core is comics. People create because they're not finding the thing that they want to read, so they have to make it. I think it's amazing that you looked at comics from a standpoint of not how can I tell a story in these confines, it's how can I make these confines fit my story, which is just, I mean, that is the epitome of the creativity of comics right there.
That was always, I don't know why, that was always easier to me. Like somehow like having the constraint, even like really specific constraints, that like made it easier for me to figure out like what to do. Because if it's like open to just whatever, like I could never decide on an idea. But like if it's something very specific, then like that guides what the story has to be about.
Sure, you trim off what doesn't necessarily work to be able to fit into your format. Nice. So what would you say was, and it's okay if you don't remember, your first non-traditional comic format that got you excited to tell a story?
The first comic that I did, actually, we might have it here. I want to say that Sweet Bloop was the first one that I ever did, which was like well, actually, Beth's class, she gave us like maybe 4 or 5 different like little formats, and she was like, pick one of these like sort of alternative things and like do that. So I'd done the one where it's like all folded up. It's a big sheet and it unfolds with each page, so it becomes like a full sheet at the end. I forget why. I'm trying to think like how, it's so long ago. I can't remember like how or like why it ended up being that story, but that was, so it was like right from the beginning. I was like, I love this, and I don't want it. Like the next one, I don't think any of the other ones had to be like other formats, but I was like, I don't want to do like a regular, but I was like, this is great. I'll just keep doing like weird stuff.
How do you challenge yourself to find newer formats, or do you think of a story and then that'll tell you the kind of format you want, or do you say like, oh, I could make this weird hexagonal fold-out type of thing, what would fit that kind of a shape? Yeah,
I like to look at a lot of like packaging designs, or like other like card designs, or anything like things that you wouldn't necessarily connect to comics, but like any like little or like promotional materials that sometimes you see, or like business cards that are like interesting.
That are
like I saw
your standard.
Yeah, like
square.
I saw like it was the business card for like a furniture company, and it was like a little chair that you would punch out and like put together into a chair.
That's awesome.
Like it's stuff like that where I'm like, I need to make a chair comic somehow.
I got really excited. The publisher Top Shelf years ago, their Christmas card was an ornament you cut out and build from the postcard. So years later, we did our own version of it, like a whole different shape, but like, oh, I want to do this, and like no one ever cut them out and made them, but it formed a big 3-dimensional Challengers logo when you put it together. And we even filmed a little video and bought the website challengers.christmas to play the video. So it was super fun. So I get that. I get that desire and the inspiration behind things like that. But man, you got a book that's glued inside of a shell.
Yeah.
So every single book is different.
Yeah. Well, that one actually, I don't know why. Again, it was like so long ago. I don't know why like I had originally had this idea, but I just had seashells and I had like taped an accordion book into it, and then it was something where I was like, this is insane. I'm never going to make more than one of these. And I put it away. I just like put it away somewhere. And like years later, I found it again, and it was like, it was just right before Zine Fest, and I was like, I need to make something. Why not this? Like a lot of them I feel like are things where I would like show it to someone else and they're like, well, that's going to be like really difficult, and like how are you going to do that? And so probably like it's cool, but like do something that's like going to make sense. And I'm just like, no, I'll do the thing that's like weird and crazy.
Do the thing that also makes you the happiest.
Yeah.
Where do you find the shells?
I bought them from Michael's.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Yeah, I'm constantly impressed by your different formats, and each project is an excitement. And whenever you come in to restock, it's like, oh man, what new does she have? It's so great. I'll tell you this, I've never told you this before, that when I walk into another local store and I see your books there, on the one hand, I'm like, oh my God, this is so great. They know who she is as well. On the other hand, I'm like, no, she's ours. She's a Challengers creator. But no, you belong to the world. Like, you don't belong to anybody, but your work is for the world. Yeah, I get excited and sad at the same time. Is your work elsewhere aside from the area in which you can travel to? Like, are there any stores nationally?
I have books at the Minnesota Center for Book Arts, which they like really sell a lot of my books. Like, they really love them. Sure. And then I had a couple in New York that didn't work out, and so now I'm like done with them. I'm trying to think who else is still going.
They didn't sell any, or
they literally 6 months to like get them to pay me like $25, and then just like I'm not gonna send them stuff again.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, it is a challenge for a store to display your work in a way that people can find it where it doesn't get lost. But I mean, that's what stores are supposed to do. If they can't figure it out, then they should reevaluate what they're doing, because it's such a very, and this is traditional superhero comic retailers I'm talking about, but it's very typical for a retailer to see a book that is not the traditional comic shape and format and be like, I can't stock this, I can't shelf this. not everything in life is the same shape.
I was
and size.
initially I had sold like at Quimby's and Chicago Comics because that is just like in my school. That was like, they're like, you need to go to Quimby's. I don't know why that's like
Sure.
the big one.
Sure.
And I was like so nervous to like approach any other stores because I was like, they're not going to know what to do. Like they're just literally not going to know what to do with this because I've had that reaction from people where they're like, well, like this is interesting, but like, what is it? And also, like, we can't put this anywhere. It'll, like...
Yeah, but you make it work. I mean, it's a benefit to the store to have it. And I think you've got some people coming who want to look at your work. I mean, I don't know if you're going to stop, and I just pressured you into it,
You
but
did. You did. How dare you?
have you met Rachel before?
I don't think so. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. I'm
This is Margie. This is Keith.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
We are recording you right now, so
I kinda-
that's if you're cool with it, that's fine.
That's fine.
But you've bought Rachel stuff before, right?
Yeah.
I have actually. I think I saw you at the Sulzer Library because
Yeah.
I got one of these guys. Very cute. Yeah.
So fun.
All right. Yeah. So if you want, I can let you get back to it.
No.
Yeah, we can come back.
She's here for this.
Right.
I'm just annoying her in the downtime. And believe me, she would much rather talk to you right now than to me.
Okay, I believe you.
So this is her newest one right here. And even though it looks like there are two, if you turn it over, it's the same
Oh, cool.
book, but it
Oh,
tells two separate stories.
mind blowing. It's so cute.
Is that your first collaboration?
Yes.
And who did what?
My friend Amanda wrote the story. Like, she just wrote, like, it's really short. But, like, just, like, a couple of paragraphs of what the story is. And then I did, like, all of the illustration and the book design.
And the character design
Yeah.
and Gargulax?
Gregulax.
Gragulax, okay. Oh, you're right. The R is in front of the
It's
name.
about, like, Gregulax is, like, the deity or that may or may not exist in
Okay.
the world. And so each side is, like, the different species. It's basically the same story, but, like, from two different perspectives. So it's, like, the ones who, like, love Gregulax and the ones who, like, hate Gregulax. So there was a lot of, like, parallels in the story,
Nice.
Yeah, I like.
which that was easy. It was interesting to, like, work that way. Like, I was drawing it, like, on top of each other on the same page because I wanted them to, like, mirror the other side.
That makes sense, yeah.
It's very cool.
See, all the stuff people don't realize that goes in behind the scenes. Rachel, where are you on the internet for people to find you?
I have a website, rachelbard.com, and then I'm also on Instagram at Rachel_Bard. And pretty much nowhere else because I've like dropped off of other
That's fine,
social
that's
media.
fine.
And I'm so much happier after dropping off of other
Sure.
social media.
Well, I mean, you should spend your time creating and not following. I don't know what would be in your feed normally. I'm just making generalizations. So you've got prints, you've got a whole bunch of greeting cards, brand new cat stickers which are adorable and only 3 for $1.
These are super cute.
I did find out the hard way, Margie. Don't eat them.
Oh, what?
Yeah, sorry. I mean, you can do what you want. I'm saying my experience was not
What
ideal
if I want to
for.
be cute on the inside?
Aren't you already?
No.
The Farm Fresh babies.
This is good. We're gonna need this for probably.
Oh, Deidre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
actually like bees?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's not
Who doesn't
talk
like
about
bees?
I guess people who are allergic to them.
I guess.
Yeah, but it's hard to deny their importance.
Like, wouldn't people be dead if bees were gone?
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that the worry?
No, I watched Doctor Who. They left the planet years ago.
I feel like wasps just give bees a bad name.
They do.
Yeah.
And hornets and
Yeah.
yellow jackets and every level up.
Yeah. I feel like wasps just give Earth a bad name.
What I like about our friend the bees is not only does it unfold into a honeycomb, it has a vellum overlay that keeps it closed that has an additional bee friend on it.
Yes.
Yeah, that came out of like, how do I make a belly band for like a hexagon? Which there was nothing I could do that didn't like cover up like the whole front of the book.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I guess I have to do something where you can still see through it somehow. And like,
Those bands, do you draw the bee on by hand?
it's
or
printed. It's
okay, okay.
color laser printed.
Wow.
They look like they're drawn. Like
They
they
do,
look
they do,
more
yeah.
impressive than the actual process, which is just a printer. But
All right, don't give away your secrets.
I mean, I hand draw all of my books, and they're all.
I thought so. Yeah. I mean, you came up with a belly band as a diaper.
So good. That's good with these
Yeah,
guys, right?
yeah, it's so good.
And I've said this numerous times, but I keep, I forget the name of it, your matchbook
Burning
one.
Out.
Like burning out in a bowl full of matchbooks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keith, for the record, that one does taste good when you eat it.
Well, to be fair, you didn't say these don't taste good. You just said they're not for eating.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, I will let you continue to look at the work here. Rachel, thank you again for being part of this. And you're a C2E2 this year?
Yes.
And your table, you're in the Z row or U row?
Z7, maybe?
Okay.
Or
People
something
can look for you
like
in the
that.
program. You're definitely going to be there because I'm sure people are going to listen to this and say, I don't understand what they're talking about. How do you put a comic in a seashell? I need to find that out. So Z7-ish, look for Rachel Bard at C2E2, and her work is always available at Challengers and on rachelbard.com. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
So I hope that you got a little bit of a better idea for who she is and what she's about and what she does. And
I know I sure did.
yeah, I mean, if you've seen her work in the store, you know we love it. And I was raving about it that whole time talking to her. So
A seashell. It's a comic book in a seashell.
I know.
That's crazy. And $5? Come on.
That's ridiculous.
Come on.
So wonderful. Earlier, we were talking about Transformers and IDW, and there's some interesting IDW news coming out this week.
Yep.
You want to go into that?
Hopefully just interesting. Without getting too in the weeds about it, basically there are investors in IDW who would like to see them take out very large loans and things from investment banks in a way that they could potentially grow their business and better exploit the various IP they own, which is a thing that would potentially add a lot of value to shareholders and could basically destroy the company. It's a great way for a company to overextend itself, take on a ton of debt it doesn't need, and in the short term make a bunch of money for people who own shares of it, but in the long term basically obliterate the company. So not a great move long term, but definitely something that a lot of investors will agitate for because it can make them money in the short term, and that's
Right.
pretty much all anyone thinks about now when they own shares in something is how quickly can I get extra money out of this, even if it blows up the thing I've invested in, because I can always buy more shares of something else.
Dal, I can honestly tell you that is a thing I never think of.
No? How
How
can you
can I
get more
make
money?
more money in the short term?
Yeah. No, it's definitely a possibility. I don't know that I specifically read anything that said IDW is pursuing it, but it feels like something that they may have to at some point, depending on how many shares somebody owns that is trying to make this happen. And if you need to placate people who own a lot of shares of your company, sometimes you've got to do things that are not in your best interest, or else you could lose control of the company.
And they also just lost another executive who had only been in the company for a short time.
Been a lot of turnover in the C-suite.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's IDW is a weird company, and we were just talking about how on the Diamond calendar for the year, this month is IDW, and it's 20 years of IDW, and they've got all their various properties. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this doesn't feel like IDW, and it's because they didn't put up any of their licensed stuff.
Right.
It
and
was
that's
all
what
things that IDW owns or
created.
or is currently, like, they had some of their comic stuff that I don't know if they own. I don't know if they own Rocketeer, but they've been publishing Rocketeer for a long time.
Right.
Maybe they own it now.
But if you look at the things they've brought to the table, it's like V-Wars.
Yeah. Winona Earp.
Yeah.
30 Days of Night.
Yeah.
All of the, not Karen Berger.
Shelley Bond.
Shelley Bond. All the Shelley Bond books,
Yeah.
the Black Crown stuff. But it's none of their Hasbro stuff, their Turtle stuff, all those things, which are probably their best-selling books that I can think of.
I mean, yeah, the Turtle stuff is their biggest sellers for us.
That's why IDW is such a weird company, where if you take away all of their Hasbro and licensed stuff, all their like Marvel Kids comics and things like that, I don't know what we carry of IDW. Like the Black Crown stuff, I don't think we carry much of any of it for the shelf anymore.
No. And that's not because it wasn't good.
We tried it. We tried selling it. No one wanted to buy it, so we stopped ordering it.
You were talking to Christina McChrystal today, and she had said, was it Brian Michael Bendis she was talking about? I missed that part of the conversation because she was mentioning that some creator had said, it was Marv Wolfman.
Yeah.
And Marv Wolfman said, you have to give a book
6 issues.
6 issues to decide if it's really good or really to get into it.
Because he was talking about, I think it was something, she had mentioned it was in one of the, I think a Titans collection.
Okay.
And he was mentioning it in the sense of, like, the first issue of New Teen Titans sold great, and then their numbers really dropped off and they didn't pick up again until issue 6.
Okay.
And he was saying, you need to read the first 6. Like, that's what you need to get over.
Was this a current thing that he was saying, or, like, was this
I don't know when he wrote it.
Okay. Because she applied it to one of the books that she follows that she was going to quit at number 3.
Yeah.
And said, I guess I need to stay till number 6. But you don't. If you don't like it, you can get rid of it. But how many times has somebody said to you, hey, watch this TV show. It starts out weak, but it gets really good. Like, all the time.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because you're not buying the TV show piecemeal. You know what I mean?
Well, you're
Like,
still
either-
devoting your time to it.
Right, but your time, you're not making that decision on a regular basis. Like, usually when people say that, it's, you can watch this show on Netflix right now. You know, they mean, this season of this show is not great in the beginning, but it gets really good if you stick with it. So just keep watching it for the first 4 or 5 episodes, and then, you know, Daredevil gets good or whatever.
But I think that comics have to work harder to get you off the bat, right from the get-go.
Sure.
And
because you have to come back the next month and pony up $4 more, and that's a barrier at which you could say, I don't want to do this.
And that's a point that you have made often with, I just slipped my mind. Saying, I don't know what this book is about.
Sure.
But I think some of the books that we've been hawking that are coming up, again, like Little Bird, like Assassination, you get a feel for it right away.
Yeah, I think Assassination of Little Bird especially, like my complaint was with Invisible Kingdom, which has a good first issue, or the story is good in the first issue, but I don't know if that's the story they're telling me for the book, or if that's just the story they were telling me in the first issue.
And the book that Christina was referencing was Young Justice, which it's really making you work for it because we've had 3 issues so far, but each one kind of focuses on a different character.
Yeah, like
without moving the main story forward.
Which I guess I'm okay with. Like, I can see that not working for some people, and I can't defend the pacing so much as say that it doesn't bother me a whole lot. I like the individual check-ins with characters like Cassandra Sandsmark and Connor Kent. Those are characters that I've missed a lot. Between Rebirth and New 52, so getting something that checks in with them, instead of just kind of having them as a mystery in the background for a bunch of issues until we finally, in Arc 2, get these explanations. I like that right away they're saying, here's the stuff that Cassie's talking about in issue 1. In issue 2, we're going to tell you what's going on with her. And we know that we showed you Superboy, so in issue 3... let's just go into Superboy. Let's talk about what's going on with him. It's not everything necessarily, but it gives you a little bit of a grounding. And around that, I find the Amethyst stuff pretty entertaining. Did you read issue 3 of Young Justice?
Not yet, no.
There's a few pages in the back that are, on the one hand, total Bendis fluff. Okay. It's a bunch of dialogue that does nothing, that tells you nothing, that goes nowhere. But I laughed out loud a couple times over those pages reading this stuff.
Okay, that's good. That's a good sign.
It made me happy reading it, so I forgave it for not moving the plot forward because I didn't care a whole lot. I cared that I enjoyed the comic book, not what I got out of it or where it went. I just enjoyed the experience.
I'm just tired, specifically with team books, where you're told ahead of time, hey, here's the team, but you don't get that team until 6 issues in.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know from the get-go, why are they a team?
Sure.
I understand that a lot of stories are, this is why they're a team, but it's hard to market a book as a team book when they're not going to be a team for 6 issues. Yeah. Because I don't know if I have that kind of patience for 6 issues.
No, that's fair. I think there's a few team books recently that have done a good job of putting that first and foremost. Like, I think both the recent Avengers and Justice League relaunches immediately said, here's the team.
Yeah, and that's good. Those are not 2 of the books I meant. And, like, even West Coast Avengers, there's a reason behind who's in it and why.
Yeah, the big names are on the team pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
The additions are just people who are either supporting casts from other books or brand new to this book.
I hope Savage Avengers does the same thing and lets us know right away.
I don't care.
Right away.
I don't care about Savage Avengers.
I don't know. We were talking about books that are coming out in May that we're going to be supporting a little bit deeper, like concepts we think people will resonate with, like Batman Last Night on Earth, like Savage Avengers,
Yeah.
like Deceased. These are conversations from last week's episode.
Yeah, and again, Savage Avengers is one I personally could not care less about. Like, there's books where if a publisher announced tomorrow they were canceling it before it came out, I'd be like, oh, come on, give it a shot. But if Marvel went, we're not doing Savage Avengers, I'd be like, all right, that's fine. But as a retailer, we're going to order a bunch because I think there's definite interest in that book, and I think there's a lot of people that will get excited about it. I was talking to a guy yesterday who was a Conan fan who's very excited about the new Conan series, but he can't believe they're doing it because he didn't think there were any other like Conan fans who still cared. And I'm like, no, that's the point. There were a ton of them, and they were just waiting for something to come out.
They didn't care. They needed to be given something to care about.
Yeah. There's clearly an untapped Conan market.
But didn't they announce a new book by... you told me today that Dark Horse announced a new Mike Deodato Jr. book today.
Jeff Lemire and Mike Deodato,
and he's the artist on Savage Avengers.
Yeah, I guess he's just doing the first few,
but he's a guy that could do...
This
easily do a monthly book.
I mean, the Dark Horse book's only 4 issues.
Okay.
So he might just skip an arc and come back.
You know what? It's probably already done.
Yeah, it might be already done.
Because Jeff Lemire is way ahead on his books from what we've been told.
Yeah. It would not surprise me.
It's probably already done. Okay, that makes more sense. I didn't know it was just a 4-issue one.
Well, it could be 4 issues and then they come back and do more or whatever. You know how Dark Horse is.
I wanted to bring up how why did I say we? I have no idea. How, like, there's so many little things I want to get to that are, like, long-form discussions, but just little things I want to mention.
That's fine.
That I don't know the good leadway in, but the Amazing Spider-Man Hunted storyline.
Yes.
Amazing Spider-Man has been good.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying it, even with their bunch of different artists and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. Oh, man, speaking of that, Justice League Odyssey.
Yes.
It's up to issue 6.
Uh-huh.
It's had 3 artists.
Wow, I stopped reading it after issue 1.
Each artist so far has just done 2 issues. And, get this, they're already on their second writer.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Josh Williamson's off?
Yeah.
Who is it now?
Dan Abnett.
Wow.
Or Andy Lanning. Which one? Dan Abnett? Dan Abnett.
Andy Lanning doesn't really write.
Right, okay, Dan Abnett. Yeah, he did number 6.
And that was a weird book where it was supposed to launch way earlier, and they took it off the schedule for retooling with some very vague, there's changes we want to make, so we pushed it back.
Yeah.
And then I guess it sounded like, and I don't know if this was ever confirmed or if I'm just remembering like a bunch of like industry scuttlebutt, but they had done full issues of the book that they basically had to throw away.
Yeah, that has not been confirmed.
Yeah. But that would make sense if Stepan Sejic is off the book immediately. Like, if you've already done 2 or 3 issues that they put in the garbage and you had to draw 2 new ones, maybe you don't want to do a 6th one. Maybe you just want to be like, I'm done.
Maybe they don't want you to do a 6th one.
Yeah, maybe that's the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird.
So, Amazing Spider-Man, they've been leading up to this Hunted storyline since it started.
Yeah.
Since the very first issue, there have been hints to this storyline.
Yeah, Craven's been doing stuff in the background that we have not seen the full culmination of.
And it's the big Spider event for the spring, but it's self-contained in its amazingness.
Yeah. They're not doing, like, a book called Hunted and then a bunch of tie-ins.
Right.
It's
not going to be over in Miles Morales. It's not going to be in Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Fine. But to circumvent that, they're doing a series of .hu issues.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 of them.
So it's like issue 16, and then 16.hu, which is a focus just on Rhino. And then
Black Cat.
Well, like for example.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because that was when it just came out. It was a full... Did you read it?
No.
It's a full Black Cat issue.
Okay. Is Spider-Man in it at all?
It's all from her perspective. So when he's in it, she's remembering stuff.
Okay.
It's flashbacky stuff.
So it just came out this week. But the reason I'm pointing it out is because I don't think... Because Nick Spencer is writing all of those.
Right.
So I would not have had a problem with them just making it 17.
Sure.
Especially since the actual issue 16, not a point issue, not a .hu issue, was entirely Craven.
Yeah.
It's
what Craven's been up to the last 15 issues of the comic book.
It seems to me like the exact point of what a .hu issue would be, but it had regular numbering. So if they could do that, why not just number everything else normal numbering and make it so hard and confusing? Because It's difficult on our end because it doesn't necessarily...
It's not part of the series code.
Right, so we have to manually add everybody who gets Amazing Spider-Man, which is a large number of people, myself included,
Yeah, and
to these specials.
having read the HU issue, the 16.HU, we pulled it for everyone who got Amazing Spider-Man, and I'm really glad we did, because it's basically the other half of what's happening in 15 or 16. One of the recent issues.
16 was the Craven one.
Yeah, there's a thing, I think it's 15 maybe, that ends with, like, the Black Cat contacting Spider-Man because something's happened.
That was the previous one, yeah.
This is what happened.
Yeah.
This is how and why she's calling for help. And it also follows up on stuff that was going on in the Lizard subplot in those issues.
Okay. Because there was a little bit of the Lizard subplot in the Craven issue.
Yeah. This is more of that. So again, it feels like the next chapter in the story, not some weird side thing you don't need to read. And for a book that already comes out anywhere between 2 and 3 times a month, it wouldn't kill it if it came out 4 times a month.
Yeah, that's fine.
We wouldn't get so upset.
But I think like we ordered lower on the HU numbers because we fully expect people to be like, I don't want those.
Yeah, it doesn't have a legacy number, or I don't know why it's a .hu or whatever. When they would not be disappointed if they would have bought it if it had a number 17 on it. A real weird... Marvel will occasionally do things where it's like, you're numbering it this way just to take advantage of people. I get that. But then there's times where it's like, why are you giving people a reason not to pick up this book?
I didn't check. Does it have legacy numbering on it?
Nope.
Ooh.
I did check. It does not.
Interesting.
Which is weird, because Avengers No Road Home does.
Yeah.
What?
Man,
I
don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah, more than ever in 2019, I just wish that I felt like one person at that company had an overview of it. I don't know if it's CB Cebulski or somebody else's job, but I wish one person had a top-down view of everything the company was doing, so it felt like the same decision-making process was applied to everything they did. Instead of feeling like, wait, this one has legacy numbering, even though it's by a completely different creative team and it doesn't feature any of the characters that are in the other book. But this one's by the same creator, or the same writer, part of an ongoing storyline, and the second half of another storyline in the main book doesn't have legacy numbering.
Yeah, I don't understand.
You should flip those. Why did you do it that way?
Yep.
And yet, like, the War of the Realms Uncanny X-Men is coming out, that Matthew Rosenberg's writing. He's the writer of the Uncanny X-Men comic, so War of the Realms Uncanny X-Men, featuring members of his cast that are spinning off into this other storyline, will have legacy numbering.
Did you say he is writing that?
He is writing it.
Okay.
Yeah. So all of the same things that are basically true of Amazing Spider-Man number 16.HU, that one, it doesn't get a legacy number, but the other does.
So, let me ask you this.
So weird.
Are we copying everyone who gets Uncanny to that War of the Realms series?
Nope. They all got an email saying, you can read this one if you want, but it's... I mean, we didn't do it for Avengers No Road Home.
Right, sure. But it wasn't... That was a whole different creative team.
Yeah.
This is the same writer.
I mean, we definitely gave people the option, but they're not... If they were suspending Uncanny X-Men for the 3 issues of War of the Realms Uncanny X-Men, sure.
Okay.
But if it's just an additional thing, you gotta tell us you want it. Like, this Amazing Spider-Man is the exception to that, where you need it to understand what's going on in another book. I don't think you need to read War of the Realms Uncanny X-Men to know what Scott Summers is up to in Uncanny X-Men, you know? Like, I don't think that's necessary. But for things like the Batman Flash Price crossover and the Terminus Agenda stuff that's going on between Deathstroke and Teen Titans, that's a part-to-part thing. If you're getting Deathstroke, we're pulling Teen Titans for a couple months. If you're getting Teen Titans, we're pulling Deathstroke for a couple months, because otherwise you are literally getting half a story.
And there are some people that want half a story. Fine, you can get it.
Yeah.
But we're erring on the side of you getting the complete story.
Yeah, because if you come to us 3 weeks later, we may not be able to get you those parts anymore. And most people, like, the Batman Flash stuff, there's only, I think, a couple people who said no thanks.
Yeah.
Most people were like, it's fine. Either they were excited about it or they didn't care.
I mean, I think that we have, over the last almost 11 years, built up a strong reputation of, we're not just putting stuff in your box for no reason.
Yeah. And not that anyone really reads these things, but every month when we make additions to your subscription list, not only is it on the subscription list we email you, but there's a link to the catalog that will explain exactly what we've added, for who and why.
Yep. Man, today alone was killing me as far as subscriber questions about things that we email them about.
Sure.
We have somebody who comes in every single week who's like, do I have anything this week? We
Yeah.
tell you the week before in your emails that you reference, so we know you occasionally read them.
And that same email has a list of all the graphic novels that came out. So if you want to know if there's like a new Marvel graphic novel that you might want, it's going to be listed there.
Or if you didn't make it in last week, like, hey, what came out last week? Look in your email.
Yeah.
Or the people that come in who have had things on hold and say, oh, I wanted to stop this 2 issues ago. We're beating a dead horse here.
Yeah.
It's never going to get
Never
fixed.
going to stop, but we're never going to feel good about it.
This is... I don't even know if the story is worth telling, but what I equate this to is I have a particular friend that when I'm at their place, they're married. Their husband never puts the toilet seat down. And every time I go to use the bathroom, the seat is up, I would use it and put it back down. The next time I go back in, the seat is up. And I mentioned it one time to the wife, and I said, yeah, it's always that way. Like, he'll never put it down. And she said, yeah, I stopped caring about that a long time ago. I'm never going to win that fight.
No.
But that is the kind of thing that I can't let go of. Like, why do you do this? Why do you just... It was down, because people use it down. If you put it up to use it, put it back down.
I think it's because if you gave in on it, if you said, you know what, I'm not going to get mad about this anymore, it's like saying the person who's doing the wrong thing is right. And there's something deep in your psychology that can't let that slide.
Because
you can't.
It's
you could
rude.
never go to them and say you're right because you're wrong, and you know they're wrong. And
because to me, what they're
that
saying
would be a
every
lie.
time is my time, being their time, is more valuable than yours. I'm too important to do this thing. You have to do it because my time is more valuable than yours. My time is more valuable than reading emails. You need to tell me what I'm getting. I'm not just because you have given me the tools to do it myself, to fish for myself. No, I'm coming to you to buy the fish. I'm mixing metaphors here.
I think
but
the reason it doesn't bother me anymore, or it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you, is in my mind, if everything else goes, the last thing I'll remember before I die is saying to someone, well, we sent out an email saying what you were getting. And that person indignantly looking at me in the eye and saying, I don't read those. As though I should have come up with a different solution to impart this information, because obviously they're not going to read the emails, stupid. I will never forget that. And that was just the I'm never going to change this behavior in people.
Right.
Like the people who don't read it, who don't use the information that we provide to them, they're literally never going to. Ever. So it's like, okay, well, how am I going to live my life now, knowing that? Got to make changes to how I do things.
Yeah. And I do let smaller things go. Dumber things, for example, the way people put toilet paper on the toilet paper roll on the holder.
Yeah.
I have my way. People have other ways.
Sure. Do you do sideways?
I mean, we have illustrations of the bathrooms that just, yes, no, you monster.
Clear directions on how you're supposed to put toilet paper
Right,
on the roll.
and I get it. And people have their reasons. I have mine.
Sure.
And I think we've talked about this before, but knowing the building in which our store is, and knowing the vast number of construction workers that use it, and how nobody cleans it every day, I specifically keep the toilet paper so the hang down side is on the outside, like facing into the room. Am I explaining that right? You know, when you the paper, when you pull it down, you're pulling it down not from the back, but from the front.
Sure, overhand, I think is how I refer to it.
Yes, overhand.
Overhand.
Specifically because...
Underhand would be like if it was facing the wall instead of facing the room.
Specifically because when it's underhand, it hangs down and can brush against the wall. Those walls are gross.
Yeah.
I don't want to be using toilet paper that has been brushed against the wall. Same thing in my apartment. The walls are not the cleanest, even though I try to scrub them sometimes. I don't want to take a chance of having that. I know it doesn't look as good. I was raised to do it underhand.
Oh, see, I was raised overhand, so that's just a learned behavior. Like, I don't...
But I've changed my behavior to overhand because it makes more sense to me, and it seems cleaner. But
I'd agree with that.
I understand people like it underhand. So if for some strange reason, if somebody is changing putting toilet paper on in a place that I use, I just change it back to the way I want it.
Sure.
I don't change it in other people's houses.
No, that would be psychotic.
Right. But I mean, like, it's not, I stopped saying, you're doing it wrong, don't do it this way. I have the cartoon up, fine, it's a funny cartoon.
Sure.
We legitimately have an employee that doesn't think there's anything wrong with not replacing it. Because that was the problem we had, of people just not replacing it.
People were literally putting it on sideways, where they...
Just letting it rest on top.
Yeah, they would let a tube run out, and instead of removing the cardboard tube from the dispenser, putting a new roll of toilet paper on the dispenser, and putting it back in its holder, they would just leave the cardboard tube on, take a new roll of toilet paper, and just rest it sideways on top.
And that's another example of my time is too valuable to replace toilet paper.
Someone else can take care of this.
Yeah.
Why?
There
Why
are no jobs in Challengers that I or you will not do ourselves. There is not a thing that is relegated to specific employees like, oh, I'm never going to do this. This is just a Lizzie job.
Oh, my God, yeah. There's so many grunt work things that I do. I own a business, and I still vacuum up. I still dust shelves.
So the point is, while we'll do everything as well, we expect you to do them also.
Who is the you in this sentence?
The employee.
The employee? Okay, I thought it was a customer for a second. I'm like,
No. For the tasks that like I said, there's no task we wouldn't do that we make the employees do.
Yeah.
But we expect them to do that as well.
Right.
It's not, you're not above it either.
Yeah.
And there isn't anything that they don't do out of, like, oh, I'm just too, like, if you ask me to do something, everybody does it, that's fine.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone who's too lazy to do a job that needs to be done.
Right. There are people that have very specific reasons of jobs they do not want to do.
Yeah, obviously people have things that they enjoy or don't enjoy, and so we try and tailor different tasks to different people.
That got weirdly toilet-based.
Yeah, you had some stuff you need to get off your chest. I got stuff to say about toilet paper this week.
That was just the anecdote. That's the analogy. But that's what I feel like.
Yeah,
because all the things, and again, we're harping on emails, which
we spent 3 months harping on.
Right, but we go out of our way to do this extra work to make it easier for people, and they just want to make it harder for us.
Yeah, it can definitely get a little frustrating.
And it's not just that; it's that it's costing us money.
Yeah, no, that's the worst part. Is this could have been money that we avoided losing if we could have gotten.
We would have stopped ordering these books a few months ago, a few issues ago for you, if you had just told us when you saw it was in your box. You knew you wanted to stop at this particular issue. Mm-hmm. Why did you keep letting us pull beyond it?
Yep.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
I wish I had a better answer for you.
I don't. And this is in a time when comics have never been better. But it's getting harder to get people to care about books that are coming out. So we go to so many... Go ahead.
No, finish your sentence.
Well, I mean, we go through so many extra measures now.
We do, and I gotta say, like, I mean, for all of our complaining about the way that we'll get burned on stuff from subscribers, or the way that we wish the communications that we were sending out were used better by the people who are getting them, I think in general, like, historically, I think we're doing really well as far as not getting a ton of things put back on the shelf, or last-minute drops, or, day ofs, I don't want these 3 books. And conversely, we're getting a lot of good feedback from people from subscription emails, whether that's the Friday emails, people saying, hey, add this for Rory for next week, or the emails we've been sending out this week about upcoming, like, May comics. There's been a decent amount of responses for those. And, again, like, looking at the Transformers thing, that's not the issue 1 coming out and us pushing it and people saying, okay, add this to my list. This is people seeing it in the emails, seeing the front counter display, finding that stuff and saying, please add that for me.
Yeah, actually, it is amazing that we have this many people sign up for it before it comes out.
Yeah, and again, that's not something that we, went overboard, like telling people, you got to sign up for this book. This is people who just, from the kind of passive things that we do promotionally, it worked for them. They saw the picture on the counter, or they saw a thing in the email and went, oh, yeah, that. Let me try that out. So definitely the places where it doesn't work is frustrating, but I feel like more than ever it's a smaller part. Like, it doesn't feel like as big a problem as it used to be. I think the things that we're doing to educate some folks and, you know, kind of close those loopholes, I think it's been effective.
And I also think that every subscriber who is listening to this podcast does all the things right.
Yeah, that's the joke of it, is that the people who were complaining about would never hear this, and the people who are hearing this generally don't do anything wrong.
Right.
I always feel a little bad when we'll have sometimes where we'll complain frequently, almost weekly, about subscription stuff in the store, and the people who will come in who listen to the podcast will kind of not apologize, but they'll try and like explain how they think they might be doing something wrong, and they're sorry about that, and they'll not do it again. And we have to explain, like, what you're doing is not what we're talking about.
It's not you.
You didn't do anything wrong. Again, the people we're talking about don't listen to this, and they don't come in that often, and they don't pay attention to any of our social medias or emails or podcasts or any of that stuff. So they're not going to learn anything from this, and if you're hearing this, you're not part of the problem.
It is pretty entertaining to see the things that store regulars who listen to this podcast pick up on and talk about in the store, when oftentimes it's maybe not what we would expect. And I'm not going to elaborate.
Okay, sure.
But there are specific instances of that. But instead, I still want to talk about emails. But I want to talk about publisher emails to us in a way to expand a little bit about what we talked about last week.
Yeah, briefly. When I was furious about... No, I wasn't furious. I wasn't even upset.
One of the things, like, I am willing to get emails from every publisher that publishes books.
Sure.
It's not as helpful if they only have 1 or 2 books and they want to do a deep dive into that. I don't have that kind of time. But I like it when they want to expound upon what they are publishing.
Yeah, I like when I'm given the opportunity to learn more if I want to.
Yes.
You know, I don't have to track them down or read a bunch of, you know, other sites to figure out what's going on. I like that information presented to me, even if I disregard it. At least they gave it to me. They did what they were supposed to do. They did their job.
Emails that I'm not necessarily as thrilled with is, for example, every Friday, Image has a text file email that's like, hey, here's all the books that are on FOC this week. Well, we'll know it's on FOC when FOC is there.
That's what I'm always curious about, is people use things like final order cutoff and initial orders in very different ways. Like, we have Comic Suite, so for us it's a more integrated part of the process. You know, there's specific buttons we can hit, and it pulls the information down, and it populates it and uses our cycle sheets and all that sort of stuff. But there's ways to do it where you do it just through Diamond's
website.
Yeah, the retailer portal, basically, where you can go in and do it. And it doesn't necessarily have your sales data, but it might have your initial orders in there, so you can see what you've ordered for previous issues. And I know that there's other point-of-sale programs like Mobi and Comic Hub that might need that specific formatted list to put into their system to do what they need to do. So maybe that Image email has a ton of use for people who use a different protocol than we do.
I did see statistics recently on the number of Mobi users and the number of Comic Suite users, and the numbers are pretty low, all things considered.
Sure.
And Mobi's going away, right?
I heard it was end of life.
Yeah. So that's making... But I hear a lot of Mobi people are jumping at Comics Hub.
Yeah, there's a few people recently who I don't know if I haven't spoken to, but I've seen really positive things about Comic Hub, about where that's at right now.
From what I remember, it's like 360 some odd stores have Comic Suite, 100 and something have Mobi, and 55 have Comic Hub.
Okay.
Which, if you subtract that from 3,000 stores, that's not a lot. Not a lot.
Yeah, I gotta wonder what those other stores are using.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, not having a way to track sales data not having like a computerized register to scan barcodes, to check prices, to do all the things a point-of-sale system does in 2019, how do you not have that? What are you using if it's not like the three things that most like distributors, publishers, retail outlets could name as far as comics-centric point-of-sale systems?
I mean, there's definitely a handful of stores that have built their own.
I guess.
We know one store in the city that has their own homemade POS system.
Yeah.
So, or just cash registers.
The cash register thing, that's in 2019. That's the equivalent of like using the cigar box in the 1990s.
It's
like, how are you still doing it this way?
It's literally been 10 years that we've been using Comic Suite. Because there was a Facebook memory of a tweet that I had said that crossed over to Facebook, where it was like roughly, almost exactly. So this task is done. Now it's time to make Comic Suite my bitch. Which I never did.
Never did.
The opposite.
Yeah. So yeah, we use Comic Suite and we use the RMS, which is Microsoft's kind of point of sale and retail management
system.
Service system hub. Basically, it's their backbone. The Comic Suite is an additional element added to. And I was using RMS for years before even Challengers opened.
Yeah.
At the old place, I had used that for, a decade probably. I mean, it felt like a long, long time. So I was very familiar with how a point-of-sale system works, and going back to using a register even for just a few months was like, I don't like this. This is so weird.
Yeah, even the times that we would use a register at a convention.
I don't feel like I'm getting... I don't know if I'm doing it right because I can't see it on a screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what I hit and what I didn't. Now I got to look through this register tape to figure out where it all went wrong. Yeah, God, it would be very difficult to go back to for any reason.
All right, but going back to the emails that publishers send, one thing that a lot of publishers do that I don't think is necessary is they'll send an email talking about, like, here's what we have on offer in the May previews. I don't need that because I get the May previews and I'll see it through Diamond when I'm ordering.
Okay.
I don't need a list up front of what they're putting out because that's what the catalog is for.
I guess I think of it in the same way as the Image FOC thing, where that's the way we do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if other people do it that
way. Well,
I
mean, I'm at no point did I say they should not do it.
Sure.
I'm just saying what
it's not useful to
I'm
you.
looking for
sure.
in emails.
Not useful information to you.
I don't like press releases for variant covers.
Yeah.
Just a cover.
Zero interest.
It's one thing if you want to give, like, and I don't want a press release about, like, issue 3 of a series.
Just in general, like, the variant cover stuff is the most useless information for me. You might as well send out a press release saying that the staples taste sweet.
Okay.
Like, it's the least important part of the information that I could ever get for a comic book. Because we're not going to order more. We're not going to order a different cover. Like,
right.
That's not us.
I mean, that talks to you saying how that's not a thing that we want.
Right.
Like,
but I mean, if that's what we're talking about, if we're talking specifically,
yeah.
like you were talking about the things that you personally, as Patrick Brower, not as a comic retailer, but as you specifically, do not find useful in emails. Like, for me, it's variant covers. Anything, it's just like, hey, we got 4 more covers. Like, delete. Don't care.
That information, I think, is worthwhile if it's before FOC and it hadn't been announced before. But I don't think it should ever be just one cover per email.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that, like, right before we started recording, I got 2 back-to-back emails from Action Lab.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, why 2 at the same time? Mm-hmm. I know you have different genres of book. I know you have, like, your kids line, your horror line, your mature line.
Action Lab, Danger Zone.
But send less.
Sure.
Send less of them. And I understand, like we were talking last week about getting the same email from 2 different accounts from a publisher, and they explained to us why that happens, and it makes perfect sense.
Totally.
And at no point are we like, oh, you should change that.
No.
Like, no, like, now that we know why, it's fine.
Sure.
And, like, there's just, I get it, but I think that so many publishers send just too many emails in general. and there's a point where it's just easier to delete them than read them.
I guess.
When is the last time? Do you even get Vault emails?
I do. They've been sending a lot of emails about the Savage Shores Black and White edition.
Yeah.
A lot.
My point.
Yep.
Like, if you want to send one, that's great.
Yep, a lot.
By the same token, I got an email from Tim Seeley that was sent to a bunch of stores saying, hey, here's my new book, Dark Red. Here's the first issue.
Sure.
Great. I read it. I liked it a lot.
Okay.
It feels like it could be a vampire story that takes place in the world of Revival.
Okay.
Because it's small town.
Well, that's cool.
Very rural vampire story. And it like the art was good.
Does the vampire, is he like a stock boy?
Actually, yeah.
Okay. Then they're just ripping off Count Stocula from God Hates Astronauts.
Well, he works at a convenience store.
It doesn't matter. Tim should know better.
Maybe that's where
All those guys just picking each other's pockets. I see how it is now.
Count Stocula, of course, from
God Hates Astronauts.
no,
Grenade Horse Apocalypse.
Grenade Horse Apocalypse. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for getting that right.
Sure thing.
Yeah, so like we always want to hear from creators and publishers, but
Yeah.
publishers sometimes need to condense what they're doing. Marvel sends they send press releases all the time, which are mostly unnecessary, mainly about covers, and usually after they've already been in other press markets.
After I've read it on the beat.
Yeah. And then they send a weekly retailer email, which is only text-based, and it's been driving me insane for years.
I don't mind it. I just wish it was...
Why is all the new news this week buried at the very, very end?
Yeah. That's like almost the stuff that they don't want you to know too much
Yeah.
about.
And literally, if they have 15 news items for the week, 14 are about variant cover changes.
Yeah. Or things where it was called Artist Variant. Now we know that it's Carlos Pacheco, so it's now called Pacheco Variant. And you'll see that for like they did all 7 of their cat covers got retitled in Diamond Systems. So there's 7 entries where it's like, this Deadpool cat variant is now called Deadpool, whatever the artist name is, cat variant. Like, great.
Which doesn't change on the invoice. When we're checking in, now that we have specific club members that are ordering like all 7 covers of a book, when those get changed later, they're called something different on the invoice.
Yeah.
And when publishers don't have like cover A printed on the cover,
Right.
it is very difficult. Even this week with
When there's multiple like Avengers covers.
with the 7 covers of that one book that came out this week, where it would say like young cover B. Like, no, that's like it's cover C, but young other cover. Like when you're pulling them out of the box, if you don't know the code on the barcode, the way it's read, like, oh, this is obviously 5, this is 6, this is 7, but they're not called that. They're called B, C, and D.
Right.
It's very difficult to check in individual issues with different covers.
Well, thankfully we won't have to do that one again.
What?
Drop those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But, I mean, there's... okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, this was... He dropped them, and I'm like, yeah, you got to get this week's. Like, we can drop it with the next one, but these other ones are coming in next week. We can't cut them.
Are those on FOCs?
Yeah, they're Action Lab.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think... Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're all FOCs now.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I with publisher emails, I don't know if it's a ton of emails because it just might just be a ton of publishers, and they're each sending 1 or 2 a week, so it can feel like every day there's like 3 or 4 because there's so many publishers
Okay, here's what I'm going to do.
now.
Starting tomorrow, I'm going to keep track of how many emails I get from publishers for 1 week, and then I'll break them down by category.
What's the categories?
Well, like what they're about.
Oh, okay.
Like variant
Like the
cover,
content.
FOC.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Man, I'm gonna hate myself for doing that.
No, I'm really curious to see if it's
Okay.
if it is a matter of like Dark Horse is sending 8 of these a week, or if it's just a thing of like, oh, most of these publishers only send like 2 or 3, but
Yeah.
now there's like 10 premier publishers, so we're getting 30 of these a week.
I 100% understand a publisher wanting to get more information to their retail partners to give us what we need to be able to order their book. And also, repetition, they keep constant contact. You want to build a relationship and make it feel like, oh yeah, they keep them on our mind.
If there was one information source that worked 100% of the time, that's all publishers would use.
Yeah.
If everybody read the previous catalog every month when they ordered, they wouldn't need to send out emails because you're reading the catalog. But they know that retailers do not read the catalog at 100%.
And with these publisher emails, as a Diamond account, you have to go into your Diamond account and request these. And there's a screen where you literally check off which publishers you want the emails from. I won't even hazard a guess of the percentage of retailers that don't know that, because I've had people say, well, how do you get these emails?
Yeah.
And it's like, it wasn't intuitive. It wasn't a thing that we knew right away. Somebody had to tell us in the beginning to do it.
Yeah.
So I can understand publishers needing a different outlet as well, because people don't necessarily get them or read them.
Right.
As we well know, just because you send an email out doesn't mean someone's going to read it.
Don't assume that people got an email, opened it in their inbox, read it, understood the information, remembered it. Like, all of that stuff is a huge assumption.
I just remembered that 2 weeks ago on that Friday where we had the computer that wouldn't, we had the point of sale trouble. Mm-hmm. I got an email from Southern Hobby like, hey, here's all the pops that were released at Toy Fair. What do you want to order? I'm like, I can't do this right now. I have to get back to it. I never did. I'm sure you're hurt. You're not hurt. You're disappointed that I didn't order 1,000 new pops.
I am very much looking forward to the time a few months from now where we look at our pop shelves and go, God, they're so empty. We've sold so many. We can get some new ones. I would love that feeling instead of the weekly, where am I going to put this one? We got 4 more in this week and we sold 3 last week. This is bad. This is real bad.
All right, just a quick reminder that while we already talked about Women's Comics Month and that we're going to have creators in every Saturday and Sunday through the rest of March, also the final Saturday of March, we'll see the return of the Girl Scouts with the Girl Scout cookies from Troop 23505 is my guess, and I'm not entirely sure that's the right number. I'm sorry if it's wrong, but it's close enough. They sold like 78 boxes.
Did they really?
On Sunday, yeah.
Good God.
Yeah.
Is that good? That sounds good.
I was told it was pretty good.
Okay. Wow. Jeez.
I know,
Sorry.
right?
78 boxes.
I was told that via a message. So I don't know.
You're giving it a tone.
Yeah, it could have been, that's pretty good. Or, that's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah. But it wasn't like, that was great. Mm-hmm. And also, that'll be that'll be March 30th. So that'll be probably most people's last opportunity to get Girl Scout cookies, period.
Yeah, I guess.
Period.
Yeah, forever.
Well, until the next month.
No, forever.
Forever this year. Forever this year. Hey, what is the date of Detective Comics 1000?
I believe we're going to be selling it between the days of March 26th and March 27th.
Okay, I was going to say 25 and 26. I couldn't remember. So yeah, the
3 weeks from tonight is
3
the
weeks?
Wednesday it's on sale.
Whoa, what?
But 3 weeks minus 18 hours or whatever is when it goes on sale.
We still don't have any further details for our Easter Sunday kids event with Marty and Sarah, who, as it turns out, love wrestling. I'll try to get them to pin down more stuff because that's happening.
Okay.
There's several potentially big things that we've just started talking about, but they're out of our control. Mm-hmm. And they seem like they're going to happen, but we just got to wait and find out.
Yeah.
Just got to wait and see. So there's exciting things.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you want to feel part of the community, there's always Women's Comics Night, which is the second Monday of every month, starting at 7 p.m. The next one is this very Monday. Fitting that it's within Women's Comics Month, but of course it's every month.
Yes.
So there. And I just want to point out that comics are for everybody. They can be by anybody. And thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.